In chemistry class, we're going to be talking a lot about chemicals. Shocker, I know. And so sometimes we'll talk about their full name. Sometimes we'll be writing it out in a formula, like how you can see this H2O over here. That's a formula. So today we're going to really quickly talk about what those letters and numbers mean. Whenever you're looking at a formula, you're going to see capital letters, and each capital letter represents an element. So this capital H represents hydrogen, and this O represents oxygen. Over here, you'll notice we have a capital N and a lowercase a. So that means these two go together. And if we look on the table, it means, sodium. Sodium's on the periodic table, Na. Same thing over here, a capital C and a lowercase l. We check our handy periodic table and we find out it's chlorine. All right. The other thing that can sometimes be present on formulas are numbers. You notice sodium chloride, aka salt, doesn't have any numbers. It's just NaCl. Okay? Because that means there is one sodium and one chlorine. Okay? So they just write NaCl. Over here, though, we have H2O. Okay, so this little 2 is called a subscript. A subscript. And it applies to the letter directly ahead of it. So what this means is there are 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen in H2O, in water. So let's try a couple of examples to see if this makes sense to you. All right, vinegar, also known as acetic acid. I'm sure you guys have come across this in your everyday life, at home, cooking, stuff like that. So here we have a C2H4O2. So what elements are there present? C, H, and O. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, all present in vinegar. And how many? Well, because of this little 2, we know there are 2 carbons. Because of this little 4, we know there are 4 hydrogens. And because of this little 2, we know there are 2 oxygens. So 2 carbons, 4 hydrogens, and 2 oxygens in vinegar. Does that make sense? I hope so. Here we go for methane. Methane you might not be as familiar with, but methane is a gas that can be produced in lots of different ways. And one of the ways, honestly, is from cow farts. That's right. Livestock, it is one of the components of their toots. So methane is a gas, CH4. This is going to be one that you're going to come across a lot and that you should just memorize, that methane is CH4. So what elements are present? Carbon and hydrogen. How many? Well, there's just one C written here, even though there's not a little one. I just know in my head that there's 1 carbon. So there we go. And then this little 4 here with hydrogen, that means there's 4. So 1 carbon and 4 hydrogen in methane. 2 more practice. Here we go. We've got baking soda, what you use in cooking and baking, cakes, stuff like that. The chemical formula is NaHCO3. So take a minute, pause the video, try to figure out which elements are in the compound and how many of each are there. Okay, did you figure it out? For elements, we've got Na, which is sodium, H, which is hydrogen, C, which is carbon, and O, which is oxygen. For all of them, Na, H, and C, they all have 1, and just oxygen has 3. So 1, 1, 1, and 3. And over here, this is the chemical formula for caffeine. We all love caffeine. My favorites are Diet Coke and Diet Dr. Pepper, and I will defend it to the death, so come at me, okay? Because all the other sodas are garbage. So here we go. Which elements are in them and how many of each? Take a moment, figure it out. We've got C for carbon, H for hydrogen, N for nitrogen, and O for oxygen. And there are 8 carbons, 10 hydrogens, 4 nitrogens, and 2 oxygens. So hopefully by the end of this video, you now understand what the letters stand for in a formula and what the numbers represent.